Okay, first of all, since I know y'all are all wondering and want to know more, marvel at this wondrous T-shirt that I was given as a present. And now that we've gotten that over with, I want to talk about a movie I saw yesterday. That movie is The Whale, starring Brendan Fraser. Is that how you say his name? It's just Fraser, not Frazier. I believe so. Anyway, I was already kind of interested in this movie because, well, for one thing, director whose name slips my mind again, as it always does when I've got the camera on me, but I know it's something very Jewish sounding, and I know that he directed The Wrestler and Black Swan and Requiem for a Dream, which I couldn't stand, and a couple other movies that were just really harsh, really difficult to get through. But some movies that were, while difficult to get through, also brilliant, and I'm very happy that I saw them. Definitely an auteur, this guy. But the other reason that I wanted to see it is Brendan Fraser himself returning. Brendan Fraser has a very interesting backstory leading him up to this point. It's something I've discussed before in a previous video. He was going strong, in the mid to late 90s and even the early aughts. He had he was just a stud muffin. I mean, kind of a second rate actor in some ways, but he was cheerful about it. He knew who he was and had fun with it. And but he was like not like the leading man that you would cast, generally speaking. But he still played his part. Just like the Mummy was definitely a second rate Indiana Jones, but it was still entertaining and fun, and he still had fun with it. And he seemed like a good guy. Seemed like he didn't take himself too seriously, and so forth. And then something happened. A series of things apparently happened. One was that he was groped by some Hollywood executive, some perv out in Hollywood, and their name is Legion, of course. And it happened in some manner that was relatively humiliating. It must have been public or semi-public, and this guy was really powerful, and he was spiraling after this. This just was a humiliating experience, and soon after that, or sometime after that, I don't know how soon it was, his wife left him. He lost a ton of money, and he was just gone for years. He put on some weight, and so forth. But now he returns with this movie, The Whale, and I was already interested, but then I became even more interested when I found out that this movie was getting canceled. Oh no, it's getting canceled. We've got to cancel this movie. And I was like, I didn't even want to know why. I thought I'll see it first, and as I'm watching it, I'll ponder: is this the reason why? Is that the reason why? And then find out afterwards what the reason really was, and see how lame it really was. And the reason is as lame as I pretty much expected. So in the movie, which is based on a play, and you can tell because it's all, it's all one set piece. It's all from the point of view of the main character's dingy apartment. In the movie, the main character, played by Brendan Fraser, is this morbidly obese man who teaches English classes from home, and has this very tragic backstory. Art imitating life. So mild spoilers will follow. I don't think these are really even spoilers, but I'm just going to throw that out there just in case some people wanted to see this movie with knowing absolutely nothing. So he was once married and to a woman. I have to add that, of course, these days. But he left his wife and daughter when he fell in love with a male student, and they had a relationship together for several years. But then the student wound up dying under tragic circumstances, and the student's death led to Fraser's character just sort of going into this slow motion suicide, similar to what we see going on with Nikocado on his channel, where he's putting on 50 pounds every few months. Apparently, that's what happened to this guy until he just became this monstrosity. I don't know how big he's supposed to be. I maybe like 500, 600 pounds, something like that. And he's about to croak. He's got a nurse who visits who monitors him, and she sees his blood pressure is like 250 over 170, or something astronomically high. The first we ever see of him is him masturbating to gay porn, and then having a heart attack. It's funny to say, just because it's so it's like, why would we want to see that? But that's how Darren Aronofsky, that's his name, Darren Aronofsky, the director. That's how he first introduces us to the hero of his story. And he is a hero. He's a tragic, very flawed hero, and a rather difficult one to watch, just because of how he's abused himself and what he's allowed himself to become. He can't move without. He has to use a walker to get around. He's got these little contraptions that help him pick up things off the floor or off of a table because he can't reach over. He has very limited mobility because he's so big. So it's a pretty, daring, provocative, sort of in-your-face kind of premise. To have this guy who is Brendan Fraser, who once was this one of the handsomest men in the world, and now has hit a conspicuous decline. Although nothing like the character he plays, I should say. But the fat suit and everything that they put on him to make him look like a hugely morbidly obese man is very realistic. And we see him. I'm laughing now to talk about it, but I wasn't laughing when I had to see it. We see him in the shower, and it's we can't see his genitalia just because there's too much fat hanging down. But he uses some like scrubber thing, to reach all the crevices and all the fat crevices all over his body. And it's done in a way that's not. It's definitely grotesque, but it's not like a John Waters kind of revel in how gross this is. It's just sort of trying to show you what day-to-day life is like for this guy. Now, there are other interesting characters who emerge. There's the nurse, as I said, who takes care of him, who, as it turns out, is the sister of his dead lover. And then we meet at some point his extremely angry daughter, played by Sadie Sink, of Stranger Things fame, the redhead on Stranger Things. She plays his daughter. She has a lot of vitriol and hatred for him, which he understands, and he knows that in a lot of ways he's screwed up. But he always wanted to be in touch with her. But since the divorce was so acrimonious, the mother sort of didn't want him anywhere near her, and so that sort of reinforced everything, reinforced the acrimony, and made it so that she rarely saw him after the age. She was 8 years old when he left the unhappy marriage to be with this male student. So I would say the most interesting aspect of the story is the fact that this guy who's on the brink of croaking, he's about gone. His body just can't take any more of the abuse that he is rendered upon it. And there are some scenes where we're forced to watch him eating too. Those are also really difficult to sit through. He orders 2 pizzas and scarfs them all down, to the point where he's even throwing up. And it's really, like I said, it's a lot. It's a lot to have to watch. And you don't, you want to look away, and I did want to look away. But at the same time, it never felt exploitative. It never seemed to me like, like my face was just being mashed into this ugliness. It was more just like, this is this character. This is what he's going through. These are the things that he is doing to himself. He is human. Some of us get addicted to certain things in order to cope with our lives. Some of us do this, some of us do that. This is the path that he's been on. There's no effort to justify it, but we do, sort of understand certain things about it, and we come to sympathize with him, especially because at this point, the time when the movie takes place, he's wanting to touch base again with his daughter, who he loves, clearly loves more than anything. He loves her as much as she hates him, and she she can't possibly hate him enough to make him stop loving her. It's a touching sort of depiction of a paternal love, which is something that parents can understand, most parents anyway. There's nothing that's going to make you stop loving your kid. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Especially when you're aware of how much you failed them. So the chemistry between Sadie Sink and Brendan Fraser is great. Those scenes are compelling to watch. There's some other interesting characters who show up. A young missionary who is kind of Mormon-esque, but he's not Mormon. There's an effort to make a distinction between the fictional sect that he is a part of and the Mormon or the LDS Church. He resembles them in many ways, but he's different, and it's interesting that the movie or the play that it's based on, has this whole lore that it's created, which involves this sect or cult or whatever we want to call it, this religious body, which involves young men going out and proselytizing, and so he comes to the hero's the flawed hero, the flawed fat hero's door at the time. At a moment of particular crisis, the very first scene, the opening scene where we first see him, again, where his self wrought climax almost causes him to keel over of a heart attack, and there are moments after that where if he If he starts crying too much, if he gets too emotional and he cries too hard, then he'll start to clutch at his chest and look like he's about to have the big one. So there's times when he laughs too hard, and that also happens. Again, really difficult stuff to have to sit through watching. And I have to say, I think Fraser pulls it off really well. And even though he's disgusting to look at, and everything, and part of you is very judgmental towards his character for letting himself get that way, and also for some of the choices that he's made in his lifetime. There's still ultimately this sympathy that the viewer has for him, because we see that the choices that he made are the choices that a flawed human being makes, and we can, if we're honest with ourselves, we can relate to them. Now, obviously, most of us haven't made the kind of choices that he has, especially not the choice to try to eat yourself to death. But we've got our own addictions. We've got our own ways in which we've done unhealthy things to avoid having to face up to things that we should be facing up to, but which are difficult. Blah blah blah, and so on. I mean, that's just part of being human. So the storyline involving this character, this young missionary character, and the interaction that he has with the daughter in a couple of scenes is also interesting. When the ex-wife shows up, she's also she turns out to be much more sympathetic and much nicer, even though she's obviously very bitter and very resentful. What I really like about this movie is we see the humanity of everybody that's portrayed in it. There's no like cardboard bad guy like you often see in movies. Just somebody who's there to just make you say boo hiss. That's not the case really with any of the characters in this movie, including the ones that are harder to like the daughter, because she is so angry and so vengeful and so sadistic and at her worst, sadistic and hateful. And the young missionary character sometimes comes across as, kind of a bit self-righteous and, in his religiosity. But he doesn't become a stereotype. He has his own story, which is also explored. So in sum, I think The Whale is a really good movie. I recommend it. I recommend seeing it. If you can handle, the kind of scenes that I'm talking about. Frankly, with Aronofsky, this is maybe on the milder side of some of his. This is much easier to get through for me than Requiem for a Dream, which is also a movie about addictions. Interestingly, different kinds of addictions. When I found out that the controversy was, number one, the reason why they're trying to cancel this movie is, number one, Brendan Fraser's not really 600 pounds. So they should have found a 600-pound man to play the part of on the brink of death, to play the part of a 600-pound man who's on the brink of death. These people, do they even, I can't even with these people. I'm just not even going to say anything, but that's just self-evidently absurd to have that kind of expectation for casting-wise. So Brendan Fraser's not really gay. This guy's gay, although he had a phase in his life when he had heterosexual relations, and a daughter came of that. So maybe he's bi. I don't know. But anyway, Brendan Fraser is straight, and he's playing this guy who identifies as gay. So there's also that they're hot and bothered about. But the stupidest thing, and I think the most objectionable way in which this movie is being objected to is people are trying to say that it's fat phobic, that goes against fat acceptance, or supposed to see people who are not just a little bit overweight but who are morbidly obese. We're supposed to look at them and not think to ourselves they have a problem with eating. We're just supposed to think to ourselves, oh, well, they're just the way they are, and who am I to judge? They're not any more or less attractive than a fit person would be. And this movie, by suggesting that a man who is eating himself to death is doing something unhealthy, is promoting, a negative idea regarding fat people. I mean, I don't have any patience with that at all. With that line at all. I mean, the idea of that Brendan Fraser wasn't properly cast is also really stupid. But this idea justifies people doing terrible things to their bodies, clearly unhealthy things to their bodies, and tries to say, well, there's nothing wrong with them. That's just the way that they are. We have to accept them for the way that they are. Look, if you're fat, no one who is decent would just say, "Oh, you're fat, so therefore I'm just gonna not see you as human anymore." But no one who is decent would also not say you would be healthier if you were thinner, and if you took steps to be in better shape, that would be better for you. No one who cared about you would feel that way. So, get out of my face with that crap. Anyway, I do recommend The Whale. Anybody else who has seen it, please leave your comments below or your thoughts below. Thanks for watching.